and welcome to this bonus recording of the Low No Drinker podcast, where I am joined today by the wonderful Kirsty Mulcahy, and I've been told that is okay to pronounce it that way, who is the founder, director, CEO of Sober Buzz Scotland and a journaling expert. And she's here today to have a chat and answer my really inane questions about journaling so that we can get some tips for people going through dry January as to how journaling can help them with a month off the booze or at any time at all. So thank you very much for joining me, Kirsty. How are you doing?
I am very well. Thank you for having me here. I feel very excited and honoured because I adore journaling. Journaling is so important to me, so it's lovely for me to share about that today.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have lots of questions for you about journaling and how it can help people and why they should consider it if they haven't before. But before we get into all of that, can you tell our watchers and listeners a little bit about yourself? What's the journey that led you to where you are now? Start wherever you feel comfortable. How did you get to here, to today?
Yes, so thank you. I will be 6 years sober next month, so I don't drink at all, and that is, now I talk about that being a life choice. That's a choice that I have made. 6 years ago, I had a problem with alcohol. I was a daily drinker. I was a problem drinker because I was drinking for all the wrong reasons, and I truly didn't think I'd ever be able to stop. I was kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was just going to have this turmoil of drinking and hangovers. But I did stop 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, and I stopped on my own. I didn't use any support groups, and I started to work my own program. I think that's a really good way for me to say it. I started to practice self-care. I started to do wellness things, including journaling, and then I realised that I wasn't very happy in my job. I had a job in the corporate world, and I very luckily got voluntary redundancy, and I retrained as a transformational coach. And at the same time, I started some sober accounts. My first one was called Sober AF Edinburgh. And I used to share, it was a microblog about how much I loved being sober. I couldn't really find anybody else who was talking about that at the time. I had a huge amount of shame around my drinking. And I started to realise actually I was really proud of not drinking, and I wanted to share that experience. And then fast forward, and we've got Sober Buzz Scotland, which is now a community interest company. And I coach people who want to look at their relationship with alcohol. We hold events, we do educational pieces. I currently volunteer in the criminal justice system in the prisons in Edinburgh, and within the community. So my whole life now is kind of revolved around helping others and my friends and other people to look at their relationship with alcohol. And I'm hugely passionate that people should be given that opportunity to see what's it doing for them or not doing for them, and doing that in a place of love and not of shame. I think it's a really empowering choice to think, actually, maybe I want to do something different. So that was quick, but that's kind of where I am at, and that's how I got there.
I think you said a couple of really interesting and important things there, and making a choice and not doing it from a point of shame is a huge area that I think people really can look at a bit more, because I know that things are changing. Obviously, people like you and I who are within this world, we hear talk about it so much, and sober curiosity is taking off, and it's now cool to not drink. But there are still a lot of people that consider the fact that they have to think about their drinking as a sign that they've got a problem or there's something wrong with them, or that they should be ashamed of it and that it should be a secret, when the truth is there are a lot of people out there who just recognize that life could be better if they drank a little bit less often. Now, whether that means zero or being sober curious and cutting down, it's different for everyone, right? Everyone has their own journey.
Absolutely. And what I always say, and I think it's a really good thing to think about, is people cut down their drinking or stop drinking, and it all for the same reason, and that is to have a better quality of life. Now, whether you were a daily drinker like me, a problematic drinker, or somebody who's like, I'm kind of fed up with a glass of wine during the week, or I'm kind of fed up with binge drinking, we're changing that because we want to have a better quality of life, and there's no shame in that. That's actually a really boss move. We start exercising because we want a better quality of life. We start maybe eating slightly differently because we want a better quality of life. So it's kind of, for me, it ties in with that. It's a wellness thing rather than there must be a problem with you. I have a problem when I drink. I don't have a problem when I don't drink.
And I think you and I are great examples of both ends, because thank you for sharing that you did have an issue with alcohol in the past, and that's what
Mhm.
led you to decide that your life would be better without it. I, on the other hand, just decided, like you were just saying, that life would just be better if I didn't drink as much. So I didn't have a rock bottom or a troubled relationship any more so than the average person, particularly if you work in hospitality where it's rife. But for me, it was just a case of, do you know what? I can't be bothered to have this glass of wine. And it was becoming an unwanted habit. And I thought, well, what's the point of that? It's costing me a fortune to have this thing that I don't want. So
Yeah,
I definitely see where you're coming from there.
yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Is is it adding value or is it taking away? So it's like, what's the point in one glass of wine? Because it's been years since I've drank, but it was like £8 a decent glass of wine in Edinburgh. So when I talk to my friends, a lot of my friends have cut back because they're like, is this bringing value to the night? No, it's £8 that I don't need to spend. And actually, I can have as good a night with all the many alcohol-free options or a cup of tea. So yeah, it's people like you and I who are talking about it, and all the many other people in our community who talk about it. It's giving people permission to say, actually, yeah, I don't need to drink on Friday night because it was just a habit that I got into, and actually, I don't need to do that anymore. So that's what's exciting for me. But I think 6 years ago, where the shame of saying I can't, I don't want to drink anymore, I can't drink anymore, or I need to make a change. Where there's so many people like yourself, you're an amazing example because you're saying there wasn't a rock bottom. What that does is it allows people who have had many rock bottoms to say, actually, you can drink without there being a massive problem. And I can just slide in there. I can just say, I don't want to drink anymore either. And that's a beautiful thing to be part of.
It is, and it's so empowering now. When I'm out and I speak to people, and I no longer feel like I have to justify myself. I was asked to write something the other day, and said, "What's one of the biggest things you got from going sober curious?" And I said, for me, it's that I don't have to justify myself anymore. I don't have to justify whether I'm drinking, whether I'm not, why I'm not. It's just better for my life, and I'm no longer concerned about what other people think. So that's been such a gift from doing this.
It's a freedom.
Yeah.
For me, it's that freedom of not caring what others think, not worrying about what I'm going to be feeling the next morning. Should I drink? Will I not drink? And the same with sober curious people. It gives them a freedom to try different things, and that's a beautiful thing.
It really is. It really is. So, how do we help other people to experience this freedom? We know so much about Dry January and what's been happening, and this phenomenon that has taken off, which started with just a couple of thousand people 11 years ago, and now has 200,000 people officially signed up via the Alcohol Change UK app, plus the millions of people around the UK and the world who now take part in it. But it's challenging, right? Because I remember I tried Dry January a couple of times before I, sort of truly went down this path. And when alcohol is part of your everyday life, taking 30 days or 31 days out from that can seem like a really big challenge. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about journaling, because I know it's such a passion of yours. And then let's start off having a look at how people can start to use this tool, because it is a tool, right, to help them on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a prolific journaler. And not everybody has to journal like me. Let's just pop that out there as well. I journal every day. And in the beginning, when I first started journaling, which we'll come on to because I had a specific way of journaling when I stopped drinking, it felt kind of alien. I was almost a little bit scared about it. What if somebody reads this? All that kind of thing. Whereas now I just let it flow. Okay, I just talk about my day or what needs done the next again day. It gives me clarity. It helps me set goals. It gives me something to look back on. I really enjoy doing it first thing in the morning. I'm a bit of I'd like to be a writer. I do a bit of writing, so it allows my creativity to come out. But there's many different ways to journal, and I know that we're going to talk about some of the things that people worry about or some of the questions. But ultimately, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper, even a scrap of paper from the printer. Or, I mean, I've got loads of journals everywhere because, as I say, I've also got a stationery habit. I buy a lot of stationery, but it's free. We've all got pens in the house. We've all got paper in the house somewhere. Use your phone if not. It's like an old friend. If you forget to do it, it doesn't matter. Go back to it. It's still going to be there for you. Quite a lot of my clients will say to me, well, I started journaling And then I stopped. So that's me. I can't do it. And it's not about you should do. No wellness practice is a should. It is I could do. That is there. That's in my toolbox. And that's a language we talk about a lot in the sober community or the sober curious community. What's in your toolbox? And for me, journaling is the top of my sober toolbox. Not that I worry about drinking anymore, but it's there for me so I can work through things or have beautiful journaling practices like gratitude.
Amazing. So tell me how you got into this. What was your introduction into journaling? Because I know you said you used it a lot when you first started looking at your relationship with alcohol. Is that when you first started journaling?
It was, although I used to write a diary when I was a little girl, when I was a teenager. And like a lot of people in the 80s, there was no boundaries in my house. So my mother read my journal and my diary. And that caused a huge problem with me because I was scared to write after that, you know. So I kind of stopped journaling after that. However, I did write lists, and the majority of people write lists, and list writing can be journaling. So if you're thinking, I've never journaled before, if you've written any kind of list, you are journaling. So fast forward to 2017 when I had to stop drinking at that point because I was really unwell drinking. And I thought, I have to do something different here. And I wrote down all the reasons why I had to make a change, what was going on. So it was really negative things. I was talking about losing time off work, not sleeping well, spending too much money, poor mental health. But as I got further into my period of sobriety, I was writing really positive things about why. I was saying things like, I am proud of myself. I am starting to sleep better. My skin's looking better. I'm able to deal with my financial problems better. I'm able to take control back over my life. So anytime that I thought about drinking in those early days of sobriety, that first year for me, I returned to my list of whys. Now, I didn't learn that anywhere. I just was sitting at home writing, thinking I need to make a change. How can I do that? And having that permanent reminder for me to return to, first of all, the negative things that I didn't want to happen again, but to open the book and read that I had at me, the work that I had done had allowed me to say to myself, really proud of myself this morning because that's X amount of days since I have had a drink. So that's how journaling started with me. However, I have journaled every single day since I got sober. I wish I'd checked how many days it is because I've done a gratitude practice every single day since I got sober. It started off with, and I know exactly what it said. I remember it so clearly. It started off with, I'm alive. I have my daughter, I have my best friend, and I had at the time a partner. Less said about him, the better now. But anyway, so those were the. So I was able to zoom out more and more and more. So when you're a problem drinker or you're somebody that thinks I need to make a change, quite often all we focus on is the problematic drinking. When I zoomed right out and started writing my gratitude every day, I was able to write things like, I slept well last night. I have money in the bank to buy food shopping this week. I have had a beautiful walk to the sea and it looked incredible. My best friend texted me and told me she was proud of me. And still to this day, I do my gratitude practice. And I no longer worry about drinking, but I have worries like everybody else. And when I do my gratitude practice, once again, it allows me to zoom out and see there's far more going on than just the thing that I may be worrying about. And it's just made me so grateful to be, you know, alive, basically. I mean, the bottom line is, like grateful for my house, grateful for my cats, grateful. And it just allows me to live in a much brighter place and allows me to deal with the more difficult things easier. That was quite a lot, sorry, but that was the things that I started doing when I stopped drinking, and I continue to do.
Don't be sorry at all. That is really interesting. It's really eye-opening because one of the things I wanted to ask is how people know what they should write. Because, it's funny you say having a diary when you are a teenager. We all had that, didn't we? You have your pictures of whichever boy band you were a fan of on the inside. And it's kind of easier when you're younger to sort of think, oh, these are all the stuff that's going on and I'll jot that down. But as you get a little bit older, you might be feeling, well, I should know how to deal with that. So, I'm a grown up now. I should be able to know the answers to these questions. So how do people start to know what to write about in there? Should they treat it like a diary and just write down what happened today? Or should it be more specific than that?
Okay, so there's many ways some people really enjoy diary writing. So today I done this is how I felt about it, this was an issue, I need to come back to this. if we're dealing with problems or things that are difficult, when we write them down, it makes it very valid. There it is. That's the thing. Nobody can tell you don't feel that way. Yeah, I do feel that way. That's how I'm feeling at this moment. Quite often it gives us a space between the problems. So maybe somebody's annoyed you or something's upset you. And if you write it down, you think, it's there. I'm going to come back to that. So that's a really good way to do a diary journal. Prompts are really good to use, and prompts are really easy. People think, where do I find them? There's loads online. I do lots on my page. I do Kirsty's Sunday journaling prompts every Sunday. But you can start a reflective journaling practice, and you can say, what went well yesterday? What were my wins yesterday? What was a challenge yesterday? What can I learn from yesterday? What 3 things am I grateful for? You can make that, beef that out a bit on a Sunday. What were my wins for the week? What went well? What do I need to prioritize for the week ahead? A beautiful prompt, particularly if you want to make some adjustments for your drinking during dry January, is, how do I want to feel when I climb into bed tonight? Nobody says drunk. Nobody's like, I can't wait to be really drunk in my bed tonight. Once again, you can say, how do I want to feel next Saturday, next weekend? What do I have to do to get me there? So what you're doing then is you're planning for the week. You're setting an intention. Next Saturday, I want to feel rested and organised and like I'm having fun. So you'll be, okay, I need to sleep better. I need to make sure that I'm organised for work. And I'm going to arrange to meet my friends this week and do something fun. So I'm feeling that I'm getting all these things in there. Following week, you check on it again. So we're going backwards and we're using it as a reflective piece. Did that work? What went well? Do I have to make more adjustments? We can use prompts if we're thinking about not drinking. The why. And, I don't know what day this will go out, but if you want to do dry January, write down all your reasons why on the back of your notepad, because you're going to continue to add to them as you go through the month. You'll be like, oh yeah, that feels a bit better, or that feels a bit different. You can write down every day. How was today? Was it difficult? Was it easier than I thought? Was it better than I thought? Did I try an alcohol-free option today? What are my plans for the week ahead? What could be my triggers this week? By writing them down, you can then work through them. Your triggers, you might be like, well, actually, I'm just not going to go to that event because I know that I'll probably will drink there. So why do I know I'll drink there? Then you can write down, because that person always encourages me to drink, or I don't like being in social situations where I can't have a drink. And then you can start thinking, okay, I maybe need to work on that. Why can't I be in a social situation when I don't have a drink? So it's self-inquiry when we come to stuff like that. Like, okay, why does that for me? You said as we're adults, we think we should have all the answers, I think when we realise our parents are just human, we start to realise so are we. We don't have all the answers, and it's absolutely okay to set some time aside and write down, why do I feel that way? Is that my belief, or is it somebody else's? And it really starts to allow us to see who we are as a person, rather than just blindly going along with what we believe to be true. And it helps us set goals as well. Like, so this week I don't want to drink at all, or this week I want to have 6 dry days and then 1 drinking day, and then returning to it. If somebody's stopping drinking for dry January, and night times when they have their glass of wine after dinner, that's when to get your journal out. So usually my self-care is I have a glass of wine, but for the month of January, I'm going to do some journaling. Maybe write lists. What brings me joy? What can I do instead? What wellness practices would I like to try? Like, really get interested in you. Make it not just dry January, but Project Denise or Project Kirsty. And get really interested in yourself. That's what you're doing. You're finding out more and more about yourself. One last thing, I know I'm talking a lot. Lots of people say to me, loved drinking in my 20s. I'm going to say that because I lived abroad in my 20s and I had a wild time. It was fantastic. But all of a sudden they realise they're 42 and they're still drinking like they're 24. And they're like, this isn't working anymore for me. Like, this is, something's not quite right here. So what do you want to do with that time instead? So all those hungover mornings you've had where you're berating yourself, oh my God, I can't believe I've done this again. What did you want to do instead? Was it maybe that you wanted to go to the cinema with your partner or with your friend? Or did you wish that you'd learned to do something different? This is what you want to do in January. You want to plan, what do I want to learn for the rest of the year? How do I want to use my time where I'm not hungover? That's not to say you're never going to drink again, but you can actually start to think, okay, maybe I can mindfully drink as well, because I never want to get back to that how I was when I was 24, now that I'm whatever age I am. So it's a really beautiful opportunity to spend time finding out about yourself. and answering some really important questions about your drinking as well.
I love that exploration of self. One of the things that I've found from the way that I've approached my drinking and cutting back is that I've gotten to know myself so much better, because I'm not clouded by the fog of the, not even just hangovers, but just generally being at subpar, which is another thing I've discovered, that I was always operating at about 60-70% of myself, and then that the hangovers kicked in and that went straight down. But it definitely allows you to get to know yourself better. And I love that you're suggesting that with the journaling, it's not just about writing it down and setting it and forgetting it, but that you can use that to go back and have a look at your reasons why, or how you felt, or what you wanted to achieve and where you are in that stance. So it's really something that you can continue to use to grow yourself. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good anchor, so you can return to it and say, that's where I was at. Where do I want to get to? How have I got on? How have I moved forward with that? You can take it one step further and you can put a note, an alert on your phone to say, go back and check page whatever of the journal today. That's been 3 weeks since I've written that. Have I moved forward from that space? It's an opportunity to absolutely explore who you are, because quite often when we're drinking or when we're living in that party lifestyle, we're assuming somebody else's character. Quite often it's like party Kirsty actually was very different from mum Kirsty, business owner Kirsty. And so actually, what does she want when we remove the alcohol, and who really am I? It's kind of like counselling for yourself, or coaching for yourself, or therapy for yourself, and discovering who you are is really, really exciting. It doesn't have to be scary.
Fantastic. I love that. And I love the idea. I never thought of that. Setting an alert on your phone to go back and to look back at what you've said and how you're feeling about it. You mentioned something I'd like to circle back to. You mentioned about when to write in your journal. Now, should we be looking at writing at the same time every day? If we're doing it every day, do you have to set a routine? Or is it just whenever the mood takes you?
Mm-hmm. So I much prefer to journal first thing in the morning, but I'm a morning person. I'm one of these really annoying people that opens their eyes and is wide awake. So I'm most creative in the morning. I really enjoy reflecting on my day before. But you might be a nighttime person. You might be somebody who thinks, well, actually, I've got more energy at night. I like to reflect on the day that's just happened and plan my day ahead. There's no right or wrong, though. Some of my clients journal at lunchtime. Some clients journal once a week. If you're somebody who needs direction, 4 minutes, 4 times a week for 4 weeks. See how you get on. Set a little timer. 4 by 4 by 4. Quite often my clients will come back and say, oh my goodness, I'm writing for like 8 minutes now. Like once I get into the flow, it is literally that flow state of, the more you write, the more comes out. It can be really, really good to set time aside at a weekend just to reflect on your week. But once again, we all work different weeks. I work all weekend, so my weekend's a Monday, Tuesday. So it's what works for you. And I know I've said this already, Denise, but I feel like I can't say this often enough. There's no should with journaling. There's no, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's there for you to pick up and try. It doesn't have to be daily. I like it to be daily. Other people don't. So that's absolutely fine as well. And it might only be something you do when times are difficult, or if that's the case, I would say make sure you're writing about the good times as well. You want to have something you can pick up and say, look, that was good. Or it's not always going to be like the bad stuff that you're writing about, or the difficult stuff that you're writing about. Quite a lot of people worry about other people reading their diaries, and I know we've touched on that already. If you are living in a house where you're concerned that somebody might read stuff that's really personal to you. Sorry, my cats are meowing. I have told them not to, sorry. Something that's really personal to you, I always say it's best to write down, because we spend so much time on our screens. But if privacy is a problem, absolutely do it in the notes on your phone. Do it on your laptop. As long as you're getting out what's up here down, that's the important thing. It's about clearing your head and giving yourself a space to work things through. But don't feel it has to be on pen and paper. I live with a 20-year-old, my daughter. She doesn't even look at me, never mind my journals. So I don't have that worry, but I know that other people do. But the most important thing is getting out what's up here down. Doesn't matter what on.
Okay, so you can do it you can go and buy yourself a nice hard copy from WH Smith's, or a nice bound journal, or you can do it on your laptop or on your phone, just anything that you feel comfortable with, really.
Yep, I must tell you, you'll start buying really beautiful. You'll start off in an old ring binder, and before you know it, you'll be getting these gorgeous journals, or people will be buying them. So yeah, anything at all, anything at all. There's no right or wrong. I can't stress that enough.
Okay, excellent. And you're right. I've seen them in the shops as well. In WH Smith's, other stationers are available, and online and on Amazon and everything. And they're so popular now, aren't they? And there you can get like themed ones. And can you get some that have prompts in them? Do you
You do.
recommend those, or do you think it's better to find your own prompts or ones without inside?
I think the ones with prompts in are really nice. Start off journals, they're really nice. They're quite restrictive though, because it tends to be the same prompts every day, and that can start to feel a little bit like a bit monotonous, or like here we go again. So yeah, if you're really struggling, get one and then look for other prompts and see what you can use. There's so many online as well. I think there's a really good one. I can't remember the name of it. I must say we don't have WH Smith up here, I don't think, in Scotland.
You don't?
I don't think we do. I think we used to have them.
They were everywhere.
Maybe in airports. So yeah, there's daily journals that you can get. There is write a line a day. I mean, some journals just say just write one thing a day, but once you really get into it, you'll be wanting blank pages to write loads and loads.
Okay, so you can start off with those perhaps and use them as a guide,
Yeah,
to help you, and then just ignore the prompts in there once you feel like you've got your head around all of that.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So we've covered the timings, so it doesn't have to be the same time. It doesn't have to be the same days every week. What I'm hearing is that it's really flexible. Is that you used the phrase earlier on, it's like an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of those friends that you haven't seen for ages. We've all got one, right? And then you speak to each other and it's like you were together just yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I want you to see it. I want you to see it. It's there for you anytime that you want it. So just take all pressure off, all shoulds, all, I should have done this. If only I could do this. And just do it when you feel the call or when you feel the need to. And speaking about old friends, I done that yesterday. I got in touch with an old school friend, and it was like we hadn't spoke for a couple of months, and it was just exactly like that. If I pick up my journal, I'm so sorry about the cat meowing.
That's okay. The cats have got stuff to say too. They've got opinions on journaling as well. So taking it back to people's experiences with dry January, let's say somebody started doing their journaling and they've gotten through the first 31 days or so. After that time, because I think it's really important that we recognize that there is time after dry January, and some people may be, white knuckling it through the 31 days, going, I can't wait to have a drink again. And some people might be going, do you know what? That was actually really good. I really enjoyed that. How can people continue to use this as a tool going forward? Because obviously during those 31 days, it might be quite intense. Should we take a little bit of a step back and give ourselves some time to just read it all through, or do we just keep going with the journaling, the same pace and same rate?
Mm. So I think if we're using it for dry January, I would even suggest weekly going back and see what's worked well for you. Reflection's really good with journaling. Going back, seeing what's worked well, what's maybe caused a bit difficulty, what you might need to work on. If you want to, when you were saying like you're white knuckling through it, absolutely, and people will say all they're thinking about is, at least I can have a drink in February. A lot of people are thinking, at least. I would maybe say try not to think that way and try and think what new habits or new ways of thinking about your drinking can you take into February with you? How do you want, back to that question again, how do you want to feel at the end of February? What do you have to do this month to ensure that happens? I would maybe mark out your diary. What's going on? Do you have big events? How do you want to spend that event? Do you want to tell people, actually, I'm drinking slightly less now because of dry January, or I've decided to keep going into February? If that's something you want to do and you feel that you're going to have to tell people something a bit different about what you've done because you've done dry January or you've decided to change your relationship with alcohol, it's really important to remember that not everybody has to know everything. So telling people a really positive thing, which you'll get by looking at your journals, and saying, oh, listen, I've decided actually I'm not drinking much this month because I've done dry January and I actually feel really good for it. If you say that compared to, oh, I've decided not to drink as much in February because when I drink, I feel terrible and I'm really embarrassed by my behaviour. And people will say, don't be daft, Denise, you're not that bad, just have one. So by looking back on your journals and seeing what's went well and empowering yourself with what you've already achieved and what you want to continue achieving, you can then start writing in your journal things along the lines of, so for the first week in February, this is what I hope to achieve with my drinking. I know a lot of people do dry days now. Maybe I'm going to have 6 dry days and 1 drinking day, or I'm going to have 7 no drinking days at all. And write again what's went well for you. Why? What are your whys this time? Now, as we go into a new month, it might be work is really busy and I want to get something important done. It might be I've actually got a holiday coming up and I'd like to save a little bit more money, rather than the initial whys of I just don't like what alcohol does to me. Once we see that freedom it gives us and the choices that we have around that, we do start to drink slightly differently, or people do. I don't drink at all, but people do start to drink slightly differently. If it's something people want to continue for the rest of the year, mindfully drinking, I really like that language, because you're mindfully deciding when you're going to drink rather than just blindly going in there and drinking. I would suggest just constant reflection. What's going well? Do I want to go to that event? Why do I not want to go to the event? How's that making me feel? And it's back to that self-inquiry again. Many people drink because they almost feel like they have to, because they don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, or there's an expectation on them. Once you start to get a bit of self-inquiry about yourself and start asking yourself questions, why do I feel I have to drink at that event? You've got more chance of having, control's a funny word for some people, but control over your behaviours and what you want to do moving forward.
Fantastic. I love the sound of that. One more question about the actual practice of it. And that is one about where the best places are to journal. So I know you talk about going for a walk down by the sea, and I'm very jealous. There's no sea anywhere near me. Is it a good idea to try and find a location that's away from your usual circumstances, so that you're not sort of distracted? I don't know, maybe if you've got bottles of wine or something on the shelf, is it better to step away from that, or is it better to be within that environment so that you're really faced with it?
So where's your safe place? My safe place, without a doubt, is my bed. So when I come back to bed in the morning with a pot of coffee, with my journal, I feel really safe, content, cozy. That's always a place that I feel that I can write a lot down. I sometimes take my journal to the coffee shops, but if I want to get really personal about what I'm writing about, or want to get deep on something, or I'm doing a bit of exploration, I would always do that at home. It is lovely to write in nature, but as you know, I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it rains all the time here, so it's not ideal to be writing outside up here. I would say maybe when you first start journaling, particularly about your relationship with alcohol. Now, remember, that's what you're doing. You're inquiring about your relationship with alcohol. We're not shaming ourselves. We're just saying, does there need to be a change made here? I would suggest doing that at home, away from everybody else. I know that I have the luxury of not really having many people in my house, but somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. Put the phone in another room. That's a really important point. Remove your phone out the room. If it starts to feel uncomfortable, close your workbook, close your journal, and take some time out and maybe come back to it. But you want to feel safe. You want to feel like you're not going to be interrupted. Put some nice music on without words or whatever, and just see it as being a really cozy self-care practice, wherever that feels for you. Although I've got some clients that write in their car. They say they go to work, and before they go into work, they journal in their car.
Okay, so you really can just do it anywhere then.
Absolutely. It's one of these things. You can just get it out anywhere and do it.
Okay, I'll remember that. You mentioned that you often have some prompts on your pages. Where can people go and have a look at some of those? Because I can imagine a lot of people will be thinking, well, this sounds really good, but I really want somebody to help me get started.
Yes.
So first of all, where can they go to see some of these prompts, and which one should they be looking out for as a jumping off point?
Okay, so if they look up the hashtag on Instagram, Kirsty's Sunday Journal Prompts, they'll find lots of my posts. They'll find them on Sober Buzz Scotland CIC on Instagram, and I've finally managed to tie up my Facebook account with my Instagram account, so there'll be stuff getting shared on there. I have a 30 days workbook full of journaling prompts for looking at your relationship with alcohol. If people pop over to one of my pages, I can chat about that to them. Sober October journaling prompts, which we've not long had. They're under the hashtag Kirsty Sunday Journal Prompts Sober October. I've done quite a lot of journaling prompts for that. There's some really good ones in there about how much money have you spent? What would you rather spend that money on? Is there other things you would rather do? So that they're quite practical, a lot of those journal prompts. And quite often on a lot of my posts at the bottom, I'll pop some journal prompts for people to go away and have a little think about.
Excellent. So people should definitely follow to be getting some regular updates on
Yes.
those prompts. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. I wanted to ask you, slightly stepping away from journaling, just for a little bit. So you mentioned there your CIC, which is Sober Buzz Scotland. And actually, I think it does tie, because Scotland, obviously, as you all know more better than me, has a reputation with alcohol. And has a troubled relationship with it. So can you tell me a little bit about Sober Buzz Scotland and what you guys have been doing, some of the fantastic work that you've been participating in up there?
Yes. So prior to lockdown, I was holding social events. We were meeting up, having alcohol-free brunches. It was great. This was I was showing people you could socialise without drinking. And then lockdown came and Sober Buzz completely changed. I started to do 2 or 3 weekly free Zoom calls for people who were starting to think, oh my gosh, I'm drinking far too much. Furlough done a lot of that for people, particularly up here, because the weather was so good here as well, which was random. So we started to see that more and more people are actually wanting to look at their relationship with alcohol in Scotland, and you've hit the nail on the head. We have a dreadful relationship with alcohol up here, and we have some of the worst figures for alcohol-related deaths in Europe, if not the worst possibly last year. I'd have to double check that. Same with violence, with crimes. There's a huge impact on alcohol up in Scotland. So what we are doing is we're having meetups, we're building a community, it doesn't matter if people have decided they are sober curious or if they, like me, were once a problem drinker. It's for anybody, and it's really to allow people a safe space within Scotland, and for people to look in and say, actually, it's okay not to drink. We can still. I was out last night at a gig in Glasgow. Glasgow's my favourite city, and it was fantastic. And I was with 5 women, and 3 of us, me, I don't drink, because of problems with my drinking. The other 3 just decided not to drink last night, and another one's decided not to drink about 8 weeks ago. And we danced all night and we laughed. And I've met these women through the work that I do and through the pages that I run. And more and more people are saying to me, it's amazing in Scotland to be given this, to look around and see people doing something differently rather than this weighted and difficult stereotype that we have that we all have a drink. So moving forward with the Community Interest Company, we'll be doing more educational events, pulling people together. Last January, I had a sellout event. I had 100 people come along to talk about being sober curious. The tide is turning, and I think a lot of younger people in Scotland as well. I think they're starting to think, well, let's do things slightly differently. I'm hoping to speak to some government policy makers, because I know that there needs to be some stuff done up here with how people can access help who have problems. There's a big missing link, Denise, and it's for those who are grey area drinkers. So the ones who are like, I want to make a change, but I can't make a change. Why is this? But they're not ready for, thankfully, they're maybe not at the point where they need rehabilitation or to do one of the fellowships. Nothing wrong with the fellowships, but they don't always serve these grey area drinkers. So what we're doing is we're hoping to get in there and educate these people, or show them that there's another way, or allow them to build communities so that they can decide, are they sober curious or are they sober? And once again, to remove all that shame from that. So it's a big job in Scotland, but it is my purpose, and I believe it's a passion as well.
Love that. I love that you finish with such a bold statement that that's my purpose and that's my passion. And one of the best things that I think comes out for a large proportion of people who cut back or remove alcohol is that you are open to finding your purpose and you're open to finding your passion, because you're no longer, weighed down by all the other crap that comes with a life of overindulgence, and you've got time to, as we said before, with the journaling, looking back into who you are, getting to know yourself, exploring those things that mean something to you, and then putting the energy into making them real. And it sounds like that is exactly what you are doing, and it is so needed everywhere, but in especially places like Scotland, where people have such a damaging relationship with alcohol. And what you're showing them is that you don't have to hit rock bottom to want to make a change. You don't have to consider yourself an alcoholic or having alcohol use disorder. You can just recognize that you want life to be different and you want life to be better, and that this is a way to make that happen. And I absolutely love that.
Very much. And I want to touch on one thing you said there.
Go for it.
Finding your purpose. You know, when you keep a promise to yourself, I'm going to drink less or I'm going to stop drinking, your confidence just shifts a little bit, and you no longer play as small when you're constantly worried about what your hangover is like or what you've maybe said or why did I do that again. Your confidence builds and builds. And I know that you and I have got some friends in common, and I see it with everybody who makes a change with their drinking, whether they stop or whether they become sober curious. All of a sudden they realise, actually, I can do different things. I can do difficult things. And all these amazing people finding their passion and purpose online just gives me life. I absolutely love it. So, you know, I can't wait to see what everybody's purpose and passion is that, you know, gets in touch and lets me know what they're doing, whether it's magazine stuff, whether it's doing what I'm doing. It's a very, very exciting place to be.
It's so exciting. And I feel like we're quite lucky. I've said this before when speaking to somebody. I feel like the Sober Curious movement is really taking off now. And it feels like we're at the start of something wonderful. And I can't wait for another 5-10 years time to see what the world is like when so many amazing people have found their passions, have given themselves the space and the time to get to know themselves and to grow and to do the things that drive them and serve the people that they love. I think it's so exciting.
Absolutely.
Kirsty, your CIC sounds amazing. Sober Buzz Scotland. Tell people where they can go to find out more about it, please.
We have a website, Sober Buzz Scotland. That's it, the website. And on Instagram, Sober Buzz Scotland, and on Facebook, Sober Buzz Scotland. And it's not just for the Scots. We have people all over the world who are friends or are on there and who follow us and share stuff. So, yeah, you don't have to be a jock to come along. You know, come and join us, even if you're not Scottish.
Everyone's welcome, Scottish or otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is amazing. Kirsty, thank you so much. I think you've really helped people to understand that journaling isn't anything to be afraid of. And that it can be such, as you said, you know, we find a toolkit, you know, we find those things that we can rely on and that we can fall back on when we're on this journey. And whether or not people are deciding that they want to go sober for a night, a week, a month, or a lifetime, there are tools and people out there to help and not judge. And I think that's important for people to remember, that you don't have to feel judged. You don't have to feel like you have to justify yourself. You do you, and find the people that want to help and support you in doing that.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Wonderful. Kirsty, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Denise.